Hi people tuning in. Sorry about the lighting situation. We've just had a power cut, which is perfect timing. But today we are continuing our live Q&A sessions, and this week's guest from Surfers Against Sewage, and he'll be joining us in 2 seconds, as long as the internet loads. Hiya.
Hiya, how's it going?
Yeah, right, in perfect timing. The power went out about 5 minutes.
Oh, typical.
Yeah. So, excuse the lighting situation. I've got a head torch on. A little bit. How are you?
Yeah, good, really good. Can't say I've got any of those hardships today. It's everything's been good.
You're in the UK?
Yes, yeah. So down in sunny Cornwall, and it's been a lovely day today.
Nice, nice. I'm very jealous of your. So for introduce who you are and what some haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jack Middleton. I'm the Community and Events Manager at Surfers Against Sewage. Surfers Against Sewage is a national marine conservation charity based in the UK that inspires, unites, empowers and mobilises communities around the UK to to protect our oceans, beaches and coastline, with a focus on sort of the wider environment and how that impacts the oceans themselves. So, you know, rivers leading to the sea, that sort of thing. And my day-to-day role is much more about sort of the community mobilisation and volunteer effort. So I lead all of our beach clean programs. I manage our regional reps, who are sort of, you know, the one of the leading grassroots movements in the UK. So they're permanent volunteers that act as our voice in their community. So beach cleans, education talks, campaigns, all of that stuff. And then I also run our events. So if we're at festivals, if we're doing the Plastic Free Awards, or if we're getting to meet some amazing people like Prince Charles earlier in the year, that's in my remit too.
Nice. Okay. I might not know what so we're based in Mozambique, and we're working in the area here. So we do a lot. There's research, outreach, humpback whales, crash, and we teach and swimming, and we also do that too. But obviously, we have changed our activities, and about this interesting guests like you about conservation and around that. People who are tuned in, you can put questions down in the box. Well, Q&A. But now, if you're having questions that have been submitted already.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will say before we start is you are cutting out. I don't know if it's my connection, but you're cutting out quite a bit. So I'm only sort of getting the odd word. So I will try and do my best to answer everything properly.
I'm going to plug my headphones in. Very rural Africa of me. They are, like, you might hear buzzing if you can hear buzzing or anything like that. Is that better?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, right. I'm just not going to touch it now. And hopefully you'll be able to hear me. I'm just going to try and balance the phone. There we go. You can still hear me okay?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. No, it's all good. It's always a bit of tricky with all the technology, trying to get everything working. Okay, so the first question you kind of already talked a little bit about, just introducing yourself. But what is your job role with Surfers Against Sewage, and what does that involve? I mean, maybe like a day. What does your kind of average day look like?
Yeah, of course. No, it's a really good question, and I'm super lucky in that I don't really have an average day. You know, because of the sort of the breadth of the work I do, because it's so focused on the communities and on the volunteers, it changes day to day. Basically, my main role is liaising with some of the most amazing people across the UK who are, you know, volunteering to lead their communities in the fight for the oceans and for our environment. And it's kind of supporting them, giving them a platform, making sure they have everything they need, you know, resource-wise and knowledge-wise, to champion the environment and put the environment first.
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. That's always a difficult question, especially for generally people that live and work in the conservation world. What your kind of average day is, it changes so much. People always ask me that, and I'm like, I can't describe. It's different every day. Okay, and how did you get into your job role? You've been at Surfers Against Sewage for 7 years, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So how did that kind of, like, how did your career kind of evolve?
Yeah, so I think I'll be the first to admit I've been very lucky to get where I am. So I've grown up in Cornwall, sort of next to the sea my entire life. You know, I've always been a surfer. I've always been aware of the plastic pollution crisis and water quality. I actually grew up sort of 10 minutes away from the SAS office, and my local beach was where SAS was formed, which was very cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was almost like I came full circle, even including moving back in with my parents for the first year or so. But no, I've always loved geography, and obviously being a surfer, I thought I could try and combine them. So I went to Cardiff University to study marine geography, which kind of, to me, was the closest thing to surf geography I could do. Graduated that in 2013, and was sort of frantically looking for jobs. I'd always had SAS on my radar, so I sent them a couple of jobs. Ended up getting an internship, so a voluntary position for a month, managed to stay for 4 months, and then a job came up. I applied for it and luckily got it, and sort of have been in the same role ever since, but I've really managed to ride the wave. So at the time, I think SAS had 6 staff. We're now up to about 23. At the time, we mobilised 10,000, 15,000 people. Last year, through the beach schemes alone, we mobilised just under 100,000. So I've been able to ride that wave and shape the position and our communities into sort of the driving force that they are today.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you kind of just walked straight into it after uni. Yeah, you're very lucky. Not many people.
Very lucky.
That smooth career transition.
Yeah, I'm very aware that not many people. I've actually just closed a job application today, and it took me back to how easy it was for me, and I am very lucky to be here.
Nice. And someone actually asked, because you mentioned that you surfed from a young age, how did you get into surfing? What was that journey?
So again, that was purely proximity. You know, so in Cornwall, we've obviously got the coast on, well, really 3 sides. There's surf all year round, although it's obviously horribly cold in the winter. But growing up as a swimmer and having that kind of, well, my parents having that knowledge that I'd be safe in the sea, most of my friends were surfers. I think it's inevitable for most people growing up in Cornwall to get into it. And I just found that I absolutely loved it. I loved being in the sea. I wouldn't say I'm very good, although I've got better recently, you know, with lockdown and not having to do anything else. But I think it was just inevitable, you know. Most people down here get into it, and it's whether you stick it out or not. Yeah,
yeah. One of the questions we actually had submitted quite late was how has COVID kind of affected Surfers Against Sewage and your work? What's the changes that have been made, or I assume you're working from home now?
Yeah, so we've really undergone some massive changes this year. We started the year on a massive high. You know, the team was bigger than ever before. We'd just gone through a recruitment phase. We planned the whole year out based around, you know, massive community mobilisation moments that really supported the 4 areas that we work on. So plastic pollution, water quality, ocean recovery in highly protected marine areas, and climate change. And it was the first year that we've really designed the community mobilisation to support those campaigns. So, you know, we'd get our volunteers on the ground, you know, boots on the ground, testing water quality, you know, signing people up to the Safer Sea Service to be alerted that when there's a sewage spill, picking up the plastic and recording it and you know, directly challenging the companies. And we got to March, where we managed to run an event with Prince Charles. And then everything changed. We had to immediately postpone our biggest ever beach clean, which was already set up to be another huge event. We had to postpone the training events that I had planned for our volunteers. All of our campaigns were put on hold. And we kind of I mean, it was all planned, but we didn't realize how effective it'd be. We shifted to digital. So we had a campaign running that we're still running called Return to Offender. And it used to be a physical action where all of the branded packaging and plastic you find on the beach, you send back to the companies responsible for it with a letter that says, you know, what responsibility are you taking for this at the end of its life? What are you doing to reduce the amount of plastic and the amount of packaging you're producing? And we switched it to digital. So now it was see it, snap it, share it. So take a photo of it and just tweet the company. And with Twitter being such a quick and easy way to hold brands to account and for people to see other people holding them to account, the responses came back immediately, you know, and that really designed the first half of the year. Obviously, we're slightly further out of lockdown now. You know, there's more restrictions eased, so we're back to doing, until the announcement recently, larger scale beach cleans again, nowhere near where we used to be. And we're now back to about 6 people per clean, but we've started to open up. But it's kind of, I think for the rest of this year at least, it will be a mix of sort of digital actions, you know, so recording the brands, recording what we're finding, and then challenging the people responsible, and then small scale physical action. So 6 people on a beach will do, you know, a smaller scale beach clean, which may not have the impact of 100, 200 people, but they will record everything there, submit that into the government consultations. You know, they'll take the photos and challenge big business to do differently. They'll inspire and educate through these smaller sort of pockets, I think.
Yeah, I think there's also that hope as well that people are changing their ways during lockdown as well to live a little less plastic orientated. Have you guys seen seen a change in people's behaviour through this period, or is it kind of stayed the same?
Yes. Yeah, I'd say so. When lockdown was first announced, and obviously, you know, the toughest restrictions were in, so movement was limited, most shops and stuff were closed. We almost saw the environment, you know, recover. And the beaches, when we went to them, which even then was limited, were sort of free from plastics. We made a joke. We live above like a big sort of field area, and we were woken up every morning to the sounds of birds instead of cars. You know, the environment really started to recover, and then it stopped. You know, the last few weeks especially, and I won't get into it too much because I know it's sort of starting to get a bit political, but it's a different mentality with the tourists we're seeing and the people we're seeing, you know, down in Cornwall this year. And the amount of plastic pollution has increased tenfold. There's a lot around sort of where the single-use items can be used, you know, should be used now that COVID means that, you know, there's some restrictions on reusable, and I think there's you know, lots of science out there that says actually reusable, as long as it's washed properly, which it should be anyway, is fine. But the majority of what we're seeing is an increase in single-use packaging, single pollution, and just sort of just almost back to where it was before within a few weeks, which is really sad to see.
Wow, yeah, that is sad. We've seen this is quite a negative environmental strain that we're going down, but we've actually seen an increase in illegal poaching as well where we are, because there's no tourism. Obviously tourism is completely shut down, and that's such a big source of income for a lot of people. So we've seen an increase in illegal poaching, which unfortunately, because you hear like a lot of people saying, oh well, the environment's had a break and stuff, and yeah, it did have a break, but the hope is that people kind of change their thought processes and their actions more long term than just for the lockdown. Definitely, yeah. But on that note, you mentioned your campaign that you're running at the moment. Someone asked what campaigns are Surfers Against Sewage running at the moment?
Yeah, so we're running sort of 2 campaigns back to back. The first is our water quality petition, so end sewage pollution, and I think that goes out at the end of this month, and basically we are trying to get I think it's 50,000 signatures for that, and that's kind of around just bringing in stricter legislation around being able to discharge, you know, for combined sewer overflows, to discharge into bathing waters, the regularity of it, and also what signage and what information is put out when it's done. So definitely head to our website for that. And then the other one is a sort of umbrella plastic campaign. So it's the first time we've run anything like it, but essentially we've launched the plastic protest, and all of the actions, so it's made up of 6 actions, all are designed to get as many people on the ground, as many voices behind the call as possible, while also collecting the irrefutable evidence that plastic pollution is once again on the increase. And there's kind of like a journey we want to take people on. So the first action is a beach clean, or a river clean, a street clean, a park clean, a mountain clean. And then, as we said before, once you're doing that, you know, you're recording the brands you're seeing for the brand audit. You're directly tweeting the companies and challenging them to do better through return to offender. We've got a Less Plastic Please survey, which is essentially people highlighting the unnecessary and avoidable plastics that they're finding in supermarkets. So one of the big ones down here is half a cucumber wrapped in plastic, or a coconut that's had its natural protection taken away. And just stuff like that that isn't needed at all. So we're asking people to sort of let us know as an anecdotal data set what their pet plastic hates are. We've then got part of that action called Trash Talk, where we have a draft letter to supermarkets and a draft letter to MPs highlighting these pointless plastic items and really challenging them to do more. So challenging the supermarkets to, you know, vastly reduce the amount of unnecessary packaging that they're using, and challenging MPs to bring in legislation, you know, to really legislate a green and blue recovery from COVID, and to give the environment bill teeth that fully protects the environment.
Yeah.
And the last one is education, sorry. Plastic-free schools.
Oh, nice. I was actually going to ask, in your beach cleans and all the beach cleans that are being done, is that data submitted to you guys then?
Yes, so we've only started sort of collecting all that over the last few years, but yeah, everything's up on our website, and we take all the data, we, you know, write it up into reports to the public, but we also use it to submit into government consultations. So the deposit return scheme and extended producer responsibility consultations were two we fed heavily into last year, and then similarly this year, you know, around the environment bill, and making that as strong as possible is kind of our main focus. But yeah, all the data comes into our website, and then we'll sort of ship it out. Nice.
What brands and stuff are you guys finding most on the beaches?
So we have compiled a list over the last few years that we call our Dirty Dozen, and it's the brands you totally expect to see. You know, your PepsiCos, Coca-Colas, Lucozade have been a big one through lockdown. It does differ, you know, area to area. In parts of Cornwall where there's fast food, and as lockdown sort of reopened, there's been a lot on sort of KFC, McDonald's, and Burger King litter being back on the increase in packaging pollution. But yeah, it's kind of the big brands that you'd expect to see out there, we're seeing on a relatively regular basis these days.
Yeah. We have Nestle and Coca-Cola mostly on our beaches, and we get so we're on the edge of the Indian Ocean garbage patch, so we have a lot of trash coming over from Indonesia and that kind of area. So we have some random, like, I always Google the brands when we get them, and we've had like an Indonesian supermarket brand, a packaging that we had, like, you know, the ties that go around cardboard boxes when they're transport.
Yeah.
And it had like the brand and the serial number on it, and so I looked it up, and it was an Indonesian packaging company. So it's kind of mental, because that takes around 3 years for that trash to reach our shores, and it's still not even that broken down. Like, it's still pretty in almost good shape, I would say, for 3 years in the ocean, which is a testament to how long it takes for plastics to break down.
Exactly, it's a scary concept. We get some weird stuff because obviously we're quite out in the Atlantic, but beach keys recently I found a bag of crisps from Ecuador. We find fishing crates from sort of Newfoundland area. And one of the most exciting ones, well, exciting in terms of the outcome, was we found a balloon that had been released from a garden centre in Amsterdam on King's Day, and it had the address and email address on. So we emailed them about it. Obviously, said, look, we found one of your balloons washed up in Scotland. It's in good enough condition that I've been able to email you. You know, balloons are totally unnecessary. They're single-use plastic. They're awful for the environment. And they pledged to never use balloons again, which was amazing.
That's so good. I mean, that must be like pretty shocking. I bet they didn't even think that when they were creating that event and stuff. I think a lot of people don't even think of that kind of thing. We had the weirdest thing that we've had was we were on the way back from a dive, and there was just a mannequin head floating in the water. And it was one of the like, it was clearly like a cosmetic one because it had like eyelashes and like hair. It was crazy though because there were loads of crabs in her hair, so it was like Medusa. But that was probably the weirdest one. It didn't have any kind of like growths in it, but then the like skin was really like smooth and stuff. So I don't know if it would have been colonized that easily. But that was pretty weird. We've had some pretty weird stuff come up in there. But our most common is bottle caps and toothbrushes are by far the most common stuff that we get brought up.
Okay.
And okay, so sorry, back to the questions. Let's sidetrack there. How would you recommend starting an environmental campaign?
Oh, this is a really good one. It's actually something that we've been doing, or I've been lucky to do a lot with our volunteers at the moment. And the starting place is always with the message. You know, it's finding an issue that people care about and making people care about it. So one of the things we're working on at the moment is kind of an easy how to campaign guide. You know, so when is a petition necessary? How do you get support? When do you take it to the government? That sort of thing, you know, who the target is. So I definitely say find an issue that people care about and then use as much sort of emotive language and stats as possible to get people on board. So the main way to succeed is obviously with that sort of groundswell of support, you know, to have X thousand voices behind you, supporting you and wanting change. And to the way to sort of roil people up, you know, and rally people behind you is through the stats, you know. So plastic pollution, 100,000 marine mammals and 1 million seabirds die every year from entanglement in and ingestion of plastics. You know, those stats that people can immediately just understand, and they understand the impact of it, and then that's how you start to build the movement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's also quite a good book on it at the moment. Obviously people should check out your guide. Is that out yet?
No, very soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so everyone should watch out for that. There's also quite a good book written by Gina Martin called Be the Change, and it's not about environmental campaigns, but it's about like how to campaign generally. Because she was the woman that got upskirting made illegal in the UK, so it's about like her journey through that and like the law system in the UK and getting laws changed and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, it's a really interesting subject. And is a lot of your job creating campaigns, or is that are you more like running them?
So we've, like I said earlier this year, we went through sort of a big process of recruitment, and we actually managed to recruit our own campaigns and policy team. So we've got my colleague Amy, who's our head of campaigns and policy, who's with our chief exec, kind of the brains behind, you know, a lot of the big pivotal moments we have. And then she's got her team of Henry, who's a policy officer, Elsa's campaigns, and Alice is projects. And between them, and then more these days, the community team. So one of the things that we've got a lot better at is linking up campaigns with communities, you know. So we can't design these campaigns and campaign actions without understanding how our communities work, what mobilizes them, what avenues of, you know, mobilization we go down. So it starts off with the campaigns policy team, and then we kind of roll it out. So yeah, so at the moment it's kind of, I think my role is kind of more rolling it out through the communities and getting the feet on the ground behind the big campaign actions. But then within the networks themselves, I'm helping, you know, individual campaigners find their voice, use our platform to make a difference in their areas.
Nice. Okay, cool. Then someone's asked, how can you start a Surfers Against Sewage group in your area?
Oh, so that's very easy. All you have to do is email me, and I can send all the information over. So we have our regional reps are probably, well, actually we have two sort of community building projects at the moment. The regional reps is what I directly manage, and that's kind of a network of linked up individuals who we manage directly. So, you know, I'm in regular contact with them. We provide them with all the equipment they need. When restrictions allow, we offer training events, you know, we do Zoom calls, that sort of thing. So we fully support them to be the leaders in their communities. And then the other option is through our Plastic Free Communities movement, which is run by my colleague Rachel. And that is either an individual sort of movement or a community-based movement where you lead your community to achieve 5 objectives. So similar to the fair trade model, but 5 objectives of well, you know, ditching the reliance on single-use plastic. So things like forming a steering group of local small businesses and interested people, running events, getting X number of businesses to give up X number of items based on the population size, that sort of thing. So it's by no means an end goal, and we're working on sort of the next phase of it, but it's how you really get a community to make a start on that journey and then, you know, get inspired to continue it. So there's a lot of ways to join us, and all you have to do is email the team here. We're small, but we respond to most emails. The personal touch is one of the things that make us as strong as we are, I think.
Yeah. Is that usually, typically, are those SAS groups, are they like one individual and then they build a team, or do you connect people together? How does it kind of work?
Connect people together a lot more. So at the moment, the reps program is probably more individuals working on similar things, but one of the big projects I'm working on this year is linking them up through sort of chapters. So through these teams that they know they've got support, you know, they've got help. If they can't do something, there's people there that will pick it up for them. Plastic-free communities is much more of that community movement. So, you know, 4, 5, 6, maybe more people all working together on various elements to achieve the status and to, you know, really push their community to the top of the pot, as it were.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, and then someone's asked, what's your favourite part of your job?
That's an easy one. The people I work with. The reason I enjoy my job so much, I think, and have been here for so long, is because I get to work with all manners of society. You know, from, I don't know, we have youth activists, you know, 10, 11-year-old kids who are challenging McDonald's to stop making plastic, single-use plastic toys, or they're out on the beach, you know, making a difference there, all the way through to politicians and Prince Charles who want to, you know, who appreciate the work we do and want to be part of it. Like I said earlier, there's no average day for me because I get to work with it and be inspired by such amazing people.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. What was the event with Prince Charles?
So he recently came on board as our patron, so it was like a patronage reception type of event, and we brought together as many sort of people from SAS's past as possible, you know, surfers, the founding fathers, environmentalists, politicians, academics, you know, everyone from our walk of life. We brought them together under one roof for this sort of, you know, really, really good event.
Yeah, pre-lockdown.
Yes, luckily. I think we were about a week before lockdown came in.
Wow, yeah, that is very lucky. And then just to balance that out, what's your least favourite part of your job?
That's a much harder question. There are, so with our name, Surfers Against Sewage, and with the sort of, oh, not at all, with the results we have, you know, it looks like it's a very active and out there job. There are days where I'm purely in the office crunching data and filling in spreadsheets, and in my heart I know that it goes to support, you know, that's what supports all of the wider work we do, but I'd obviously much rather be out there with the people, you know, seeing them have an impact. So it's probably the days where I'm sort of chained to my desk in the office, although we do have a lovely view of the beach still, so I won't complain too much.
Yeah, I feel like environmental campaigning, environmental work, a lot of people think that you're always out in the environment and like actively doing stuff, which I think is the reason that a lot of people go into a job role.
Definitely.
But, you can't love every aspect of every job, right? You've got to do the boring admin bit as well.
Yeah, oh, it supports all the work we do for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead?
I have always thought it would be something as similar as possible. So I love working with people and you know, helping inspire and motivate people to do what they want to do. And I love the environment. So it would have to be something as similar as possible. You know, one of the side things I do, and I've actually just come from now, is running with my fiance Watergate Bay Surf Lifesaving Club. And that's sort of 75 children, you know, up to 15, 16 years old. We've got trained up coaches and stuff, and like helping them make a difference for the kids, and you know, seeing the kids' faces when they come out of the sea or they do a beach game, which is something we're going to start doing quite regularly. You know, just yeah, making a difference to other people's lives. I think I know that's kind of cliche to say, but I just love it.
That makes sense. Yeah, we have school trips out here, and it's, I think when you do it on a regular basis, you can kind of get used to it, so you don't really realise. So like for me, if I walk along the beach or I go for a run on the beach, then I'm seeing the trash and I'm like, yeah, that's that's normal, unfortunately.
Mm.
Like, yes, it's upsetting, yes, I pick it up, but it is like just normal. That's just what I expect from beaches these days, which is really depressing. But then we have these school groups that come out here, and the kids, obviously they learn about it in class, but it's quite different seeing it in real life and seeing like the quantities. So we had some school groups last year where I took them on beach cleans, and I made them do like, I think it was like 4 beach cleans in 2 days, and they were like 2-3 hour beach cleans on our beach. And after the second day, I wanted to do a third day, and they were like, but there won't be any trash you collect. And I was like, yeah, you're kidding. This sea will literally replace all the trash that you pick up as soon as the high tide comes in.
Oh no.
So I think it's a really good experience, though, in terms of like opening eyes and getting people to realise how serious and abundant the problem is. Like, the plastic problem is like mind-blowingly huge. You can't even really like fully comprehend how huge the problem is. I mean, they just found plastic bags at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. Like, it is just such a gigantic problem, but it's getting people to understand it and getting people to make those changes as well in their lives is so rewarding. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and seeing it, like you said, through a child's eye, you know, through the sort of the innocent eyes, and we get the questions a lot, sort of like, well, who put it here? Like, why is it here? And you're like, well, actually, there's no good reason why it's there, you know. But yeah, it's always inspiring.
And also talking to people about like recycling and the fact that recycling isn't necessarily the best solution these days, and what happens to that trash, and like the fact that we have British trash washing up on our shores here, but it's coming from, like, we ship our trash off like offshore, and it's coming from where we ship our trash to, so Indonesia, wherever, Malaysia, whatever, it's coming round on those currents, so it's been shipped across, and then it's literally floating through the ocean to us, and that kind of like blows a lot of the kids we work with, blows their minds. Pretty crazy stuff. Anyway, back to the questions. What's been your favourite, your most favourite campaign that you've worked on ever at Surfers Against Sewage?
That's a really hard one. Obviously, sort of my day-to-day role with the regional reps is up there, but in terms of sort of a one-off, I'd have to say the Plastic Free Awards. So last year we hosted the inaugural Plastic Free Awards, which was like a proper, you know, black tie evening that celebrated all the leaders in the anti-plastics movement. You know, it focused on youth activists, plastic-free schools, community mobilisers, sporting heroes like Lewis Pugh, small businesses that, you know, have made a difference, you know, out there, events and stuff. And it was just the most inspiring evening to sit with these people that, you know, are making such a huge difference, and for them to be inspired by other people there, and also to be motivated to do more. So no one came away from that thinking, I've won an award, that's it, me done. You know, they came away thinking, right, what do I do next year? How do I boost that? How do I take it to the next level and make more change? And I've got to say that was, for me, hands down, one of the finest moments in my career ever. Sadly, coronavirus meant that we cannot hold it this year, but it'll be back in March next year, and I'm really looking forward to working on it again. It's just so inspiring and motivating, and it gives you hope that we are making a difference, and that, you know, it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, it's fueling that motivation. People rub off on each other.
Yeah, definitely.
And then someone asked, what is the environmental cause that's closest to your heart? So, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a campaign that Surfers Against Sewage works on. It could just be an environmental problem that you feel passionately about.
There's so many at the moment. I think the more I educate myself, the more I've realised, you know, how in need our environment is. The overdevelopment. So down in Cornwall, we are very lucky to live in one of the most beautiful, I'd say the most beautiful place in the UK. But obviously that means people want to live there. So the overdevelopment of greenfield sites here is huge. The building on cliff edges, you know, the constant need to be closer and closer to the sea and have the best view and stuff, it is terrifying from a personal level. But also, I mean, it's something we focus on at SAS, but being a surfer, plastic pollution and the scale of it on our beaches. My favourite beach up the road is one of the worst beaches, and I've done thousands of beach cleans across the UK in my time, but it's one of the worst beaches I've ever seen for microplastics. You know, and then the fact that you can spend 2 hours and clear 2 meters of beach, look up after that, and it's exactly the same the whole way along. It just blows my mind how we'll ever get out of this, you know, and it has to be everyone doing their bit. But yeah, the scale of plastic pollution and the amount I see on a day-to-day basis is probably the biggest thing that keeps me going.
Yeah, and also the layers of plastic that you've got through the actual beach as well. Like you take off a couple of layers of sand and you've got plastic still under there. It's like just such a huge scale.
Definitely.
Okay, and then someone's asked, have you got any advice for people looking to get into similar careers?
Yes, so very relevant, as I said, as I've just closed my recent job recruitment phase. But experience is obviously key. You know, everyone has a passion. You know, everyone knows that chucking stuff away is bad. That, you know, reduction is the answer. That recycling is, you know, not perfect, but is a step on the way. That we shouldn't just drop plastic. That we shouldn't, you know, be discharging sewage into bathing waters while there's people surfing. But I think that there's enough voluntary groups out there that need the support and need the help and need, you know, boots on the ground, that you can get that experience. And I know there's the age-old catch-22, you know, you come out of university and you need experience, but no one will give you a job to get your experience. But there's so many individuals and community groups that are making a difference that I think all you need to do is get that experience, you know, put in the volunteer hours. You know, I know not everyone can, and I was very lucky to be able to do 4 months at SAS, but the more experience you have to go with your passion, I think the further ahead in the field you'll get.
Yeah, yeah. How do you recommend people getting that experience? By approaching NGOs, by networking, anything like that?
Yes. Approaching NGOs, I'd say, would be the best thing. So from what I do, you know, seeing these community groups, all they're asking for is a bit of help, you know, and all you need to do, and I've done similar in my local area, you just drop them an email and just say, look, I'm happy to help. Can I lead a clean? Can I get involved in any way? Is there anything you need? And the answer is always yes. You know, the more people helping out, particularly in a voluntary role, so obviously they're not being paid, the better, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had it recently. Because we take volunteers every year, but obviously we take them in country, so they usually fly here, which is completely off the table at the moment. So we had a couple of people email and say, hey, really wanted to help out, but obviously not possible at the moment. Is there anything else that I can help with? And I've got a couple of people helping with grant proposals. So it might not necessarily be the most glamorous work that you help with, but for me, that is like a huge amount of work off my shoulders, because grant proposals are lengthy and a lot of time invested in it, and usually people working for NGOs are very time poor, and they don't have enough time to get everything done. So having an extra pair of hands helps so much.
Definitely.
Speaking from someone that has people helping out at the moment, I can definitely agree. I say contact NGOs and ask if you can help out. Okay, cool. So that's all the questions that were submitted. We've still got our quick fire questions to go through as well. But for people that are watching at the moment, feel free to submit questions and we'll get through them at the end. And you can send them through while we do these quick fire ones. So if you're cool with it, we'll just jump straight into the quick fire questions.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool. So for people that haven't watched our Q&As before, these are just quick questions that we ask every guest that we have on, that help us get to know you a little bit more. They're not necessarily marine related, they're all a bit random, but they're just a bit of fun. So, first question, what is your favourite ocean creature?
Oh, sea otter, easily.
Oh, nice, very quick answer. What's your favourite day of the week?
Again, Saturday, I think, yeah. Pretty easy on that one.
Have you got a plastic-free or eco product that you couldn't live without?
Yes, at the moment, it's definitely my Hydro Flask reusable bottle. So hot drinks, cold drinks, you know, if it's a winter surf, if it's just on the beach in the summer, like, it's an absolute lifesaver for me. Yeah,
I actually agree. Someone asked me the other day what I couldn't live without, and I was like, yeah, my water bottle. Especially because here it gets really hot, and we go into the city, and like I used to have an aluminium bottle, like no insulation or anything in it, and I'd leave it in the car, walk around town, get all my shit done for like 3 hours, and you come back to like hot water, and it's the only liquid you've got with you, so you've got to drink it. But coming back to like ice cold water is just such a
yeah.
Totally changes your mood and changes your day.
Definitely.
What is your favourite beach in the world?
So this might seem like a boring one because there are some beautiful beaches, but Watergate is my local beach. It's where I spend most of my time, and I'd rather be there than anywhere else. I think it's like, yeah, it's just perfect for me.
Fair enough. And what's the last song you listened to?
I actually, was listening to some just before this to psych myself up. I was a little bit nervous. The last song was "Doing Me" by Mikey Mike.
Nice. And do you prefer dolphins or sharks?
Sharks. Although I'd rather not surf with them, but definitely sharks.
Yeah, there are some quite funny videos of dolphins and surfers surfing together. There's one really funny one that I don't know if you saw, it went viral, where a surfer is just like on a wave and then a dolphin just jumps out and like properly just hits the surfer off the, like they just collide. It's so funny. But usually dolphins are pretty chill on the waves. I would prefer to come into contact with dolphins than sharks when I'm out for a surf too. Although basking sharks are pretty cool, so that would be
yeah, fair play.
What is your favourite holiday?
So I've been lucky enough to have quite a few, but a couple of years back we did like a big road trip around California, like up to Yosemite, down to San Diego, and that was just, I absolutely loved it. It was one of the coolest places I think I've ever been. You know, there's surf, there's just everything I think I'd ever need, and the place was right there.
Yeah, I really want to go to Yosemite at some point. I watched I can't remember, it was called like the Great Wall or something like that, and it was about free climbing Yosemite. Maybe want to get into climbing.
Yes, yeah.
So cool, it looks so beautiful. Okay, would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
I think it would have to be animals. Most of the time I'd much rather speak to animals than people, I think, so I'd definitely go for animals.
Fair enough. And as a superpower, teleportation or breathing underwater?
Breathing underwater. Having seen Aquaman and spending a lot of time in water, I'd definitely rather breathe underwater.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And what book would you take with you onto a desert island? I'd either take East of Eden by John Steinbeck or A Painted House by John Grisham. Or preferably like sort of glue the two together and take both of them because they're both my favourite books. Nice, okay. And what's the first thing you're going to do when things get back to normal?
Travel. Environmentally travel, obviously, as environmentally as I can. But like I said, Cornwall's lovely and I'm super, super lucky to live here, but it gets quite small after a while, so I'd like to see more of the world.
Well, you can always travel down to Mozambique and come visit us.
Oh, perfect, definitely.
And then last question, why do you love the oceans?
My answer to this is always, it goes down sort of a very cliche route, but it's that kind of freedom. And whether it's from surfing or swimming or body surfing or just being in the ocean, it's the sort of the weightlessness and the stresslessness and just being able to do whatever I want. It's like they say with surfing, when you're on that wave, and I'm not good enough to do it properly, but it's an open canvas. You can kind of do what you want within your limited ability on it. And it's just the freedom to do and be whatever I want to be.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I don't think we've had that one before.
Nice. Nailed it.
Cool. Thanks for answering all those questions. I don't think we've had any submitted in the chat. If anyone wants to submit any now, we can quickly get to them. A couple of people have sent some lovely messages just saying that they love your work.
Thank you.
Ego boosts. Just nice messages. And talking about beach cleans and things like that. Okay, cool. I think that's everything then. Okay, thank you for sparing the time and talking to me. I'm sorry about the silly lighting and all the rest of it. Curse of being in rural Mozambique. But at least the internet's held up, so I can't complain too much. Are there any like projects or anything that's coming up that you want to tell any listeners about? Tell people about to watch out for?
It's just really the plastic protest. So, you know, right now we just want as many people to join us as possible, whether it's through data collection or, you know, tweeting or joining a beach clean. Just drop me an email and get involved, and the more the merrier, definitely.
Perfect. And then for anyone that's missed any of this and would like to rewatch it or watch this back, it's going to be on our IGTV after this, and then it will also cross-post it onto our YouTube too. And this is a series that runs every week, so feel free to join us next week as well. Thanks so much for joining us, Jack. Have a great evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. You too.
Ciao.